And we're live, Colin. Good to see you again, my friend. We did an interview a few months ago, and here's the follow up that everybody's been requesting. Colin, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, being from an Irish family, very happy today. Ireland beat Wales in the Rugby Six Nations, so started off a good weekend for me.
All right, Colin of ADDMORE Services. So let's jump into it.
Right.
We got to hear your personal story and your journey on the last interview. Why don't you
Yes.
tell us about, you guys have four divisions. I'll jump in or why don't you give us some background on how you ended up with these four divisions, and we'll jump into
Okay.
each individual division.
Well, we've got four divisions, but actually we have more services than those four divisions. So when I started in the pandemic, and I wasn't sure what service was going to be in demand. So I was, because of my background is uh, varied. I was able, being a quantity surveyor, I'm a project manager. I was able to, and I'd been in the marine industry, done a lot of super yachts. So I was able to offer marine consultancy. I'm a member of the International Interior Design Association. So I was offering interior design, e-design at that time because of the pandemic.
Mm.
But and then project management. But then it sort of morphed into, well, what things can be done remotely only, because at the pandemic stage, obviously we couldn't go on the sites. It was more complicated. So we had a lot of services and it was confusing. People look online and say, well, ADDMORE, what are they? Are they architects? Are they designers? Are they whatever? And we're a professional technical service provider offering the architectural engineering and construction industry different services. So we tried to group those services into four divisions. And then there are other services which are on our website, like project management or marine consultancy, which if somebody approached us for, that we could do and would be interested to do. But we put our core primary services, we focused on them for the four main divisions so that it would be easier for people to identify, well, what do ADDMORE do and what does it intake, without listing out a list of 30, 40 services. So the first one that we started with, our main thing when I started this was I had run a fit out and millwork company in the Middle East for 20 years nearly. And we did all our own joinery drawings with Filipino staff. And we used to have maybe 80 people in the factory because we're 2,500 man factory. It was huge, 660,000 square feet factory. It was a massive company. Did huge projects, multiple hotels at any one time. So we decided that joinery drafting for millwork companies, detailing, cut lists, is something that was the expertise of the draftsmen that had worked with me. We all worked together doing that. It would be the first go-to service. So that's what and then I had been 4 years before the pandemic running a very large natural stone and tiling company in New York, where we did stone jobs. I'm talking like in Hudson Yard and the MoMA building, where 30, 40, even $50 million stone contracts are what we were doing. We had 350 union stone guys, so massive stone projects. And again, we did all the stone detailing and engineering in Asia. So I had all those people. So joinery, millwork, and stone drafting were the first things that we were really offering, that we had the people, we had the strength of knowledge and detailing, and we started getting work straight away on those services. And then, so drafting, then we sort of saw that obviously there is a limited with drafting. Once you've done a hotel, a lot of the drafting jobs could be 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. A big drafting job can be 3 months, but that's really for a huge project. So more or less on average, say 6 weeks was the average job for us. You needed a lot of work to keep it going. So we were talking with different architects, interior designers, and they started, I could see myself when I worked on the Fontainebleau Hotel, that when on these big jobs in periods of peak demand, they just couldn't get the production drawings, the design development drawings, the contract, the construction documents out the door fast enough on these massive mega projects. So we started contacting architects and offering to do the production workshop drawings for them, the plans, the elevations, finishing schedules, sanitary schedules, door schedules. And the same for interior designers, where they had to do elevations, floor plans, reflected ceilings. It's something not really where their strength is. Their strength is on the conceptual side. So we offered the technical support, and that started to take off. So that really encompassed the first division. So we said, we're not designing, we're doing the detailing and the execution for the architect, for the interior designer, and then we're doing the workshops for joinery companies and stone companies. And then we also got approached by paint companies, by drywall companies, by blockwork companies to do layout drawings and things like that. So that really filled up a division, and that is the primary part of our services. I would say 70% of our work at the moment falls in that division. Right. So then when we were doing the drawings for architects and interior designers, they started all asking us about BIM and do we use Revit? Of course, we were an AutoCAD team, and we said, yes, we can, but something we're going to develop, but let me look into it. So I hired a BIM manager for 6 months without any work, just to get all the processes worked out and everything, and put ourselves together before we would market ourselves. And we got a team together of 7 guys, and it started off slowly, but that's definitely a growing market and something. So we've now employed, so we decided to separate that from the architectural side, and we put it in the virtual. We created the ADDMORE Virtual Studio, which is the 3rd division actually. And the reason we put it in the virtual studio is because BIM is a 3D model. We also do AutoCAD 3D modeling. We also do rendering, photorealistic rendering. We do animation fly-throughs for real estate companies. So all of that visual, virtual 3D stuff, we put into a virtual studio division. Division 2, which was, I'm a quantity surveyor by profession before I went into project management. And so we were offering pre and post construction services. Now in America, they don't really use the quantity surveyor in the traditional form, although the same work is done, but a lot of it falls with senior project managers on sites. So in the Middle East, we're approached, it's more on the British system. We're approached to, here's a job they've got, take off all the quantities, make a bill of quantities for it in the traditional format. Or what we get asked for in America more often, especially from subcontractors, is bills of materials, which we do. So we use Plan Swift, on-screen takeoff, and measure plan. And then we for those services, we can do the takeoffs, we can do the bill of quantities, we can do cost feasibilities, we can do change order management as you're going through the project. We can do claims, delays. I've done a lot of claims personally, and my cousin in Dubai has a claims company, which obviously him and I work together, pass each other work, and work together when the need requires, and he's very specialist in that. I've been involved in arbitration. So everything to do with the commercial cost control reporting, budget control for a project, anything to do with the construction cost reporting side of it, monitoring costs, monitoring budget, creating the budget, monitoring the budget. We're offering to be involved in all of that. I've done a lot of that in my personal capacity, and I've got a team of currently I've got 7 QSs, and I'd like to develop that more. But at the moment, that's what we've got there.
Now, Colin, while we're parked on Division 2, and you mentioned post-construction analysis, which is something that I find a lot of value in. Can you talk a little more about that?
Yeah, sure. We get involved in final accounts, reconciling all the accounts. So a lot of subcontractors, especially on lump sum job, not lump sum, GMP jobs and things like that, where it's all invoice based, cost plus. You've got to reconcile all the invoices and make sure all the union rates that they're applying are correct. So we offer that service, which is huge. It's a huge task and a big job. I know, for example, back in the Philippines, we worked on the City of Dreams in Manila when that was finishing, and we had to do a full reconciliation of all the invoices for the job of materials delivered against invoices received, against billing to the client to satisfy the client that the cost plus was correct. And that was a huge job, but we did that. Also, post contract, we do, if they want to do a debrief on the project and say, okay, let's have a detailed look at the budget. Where did we win? Where did we lose? Where can we improve? What do we need to be looking at in terms of bidding on future jobs? Where are items where we hadn't covered enough costs, or we put too much cost even, to make our future bidding more cost effective? Because obviously when you price some jobs, you might price it at $1,200 a square meter for a restaurant fit out, and actually the restaurant comes in at $2,500 a square meter, because there's a load of intricate millwork and marble work and a lot more detail than maybe you originally considered. So depending on the format of how you're pricing, be it a lump sum, a GMP, cost plus, will affect that. So everything to do with the post-construction, basically finalizing the account, settling all the balances. I think that's a good service, and having a debrief on the advantages and disadvantages of the project, where it went well and where it didn't.
I love that, because a lot of times people think their project went well, so they pursue more of that work, only to realize you're scaling a bad process, right?
Well, what happens, I learned this lesson from my old boss in Dubai, a very astute businessman. And he'd have a project, and let's say we had a budget, and you go down the budget, and on this first line item, we make 100% more than we thought we are going to make. Great, he's really happy. You go to the second item, and you lost 100%, and you say, oh, that's okay, because we made 100% on the one above. He said, no, that's a loss. It doesn't matter at the end of the day that the overall margin, you have maintained the overall margin because you had some very successful items covering the losses. He said, forget the margins that you made extra. He said, you've lost this much money on this job. And it always made me make people who work with me, no, don't go into a comfort zone that, if you're doing a project, we made a lot of money in the earthworks, so we can lose a bit in the infrastructure. No, it doesn't work like that. The earthworks has got a budget, the infrastructure has got a budget, the interior's got a budget, and each budget and every line item has to stand up for itself. And anything that's making a loss is a loss. But there's a lot of people who will just look at the end number and say, oh, we made 5% more than we thought, or we made what we thought. That's a good job. No, it's not a good job. You could have made 10% more because you lost all this money here that you're forgetting about. So that's the way my brain works, is to make sure that every line item is making its budget or better. And if it doesn't, and it's a loss, let's see where they are and why. Was it poor pricing or pricing that you couldn't really have foreseen? To understand the forensics of it at the end of the day, where we're making money, where we're losing money, so that your future bids, if I can reduce my future bid because I know I've really made 100% more than I thought on groundworks, well, I'm pricing my groundwork too high, and it puts me at risk of losing jobs, not the fact that's a comfort zone for me to offset other losses. So if the infrastructure had been priced correctly at a good price, because they didn't make more money because they were more efficient on site, it's just the rates were high. As simple as that. And that's what you need to know. Were the rates just high and we made more money, or did the team come up with some significant strategy of doing the work, executing the work in a more cost-effective manner was made a profit. Well, then that's something different. That's something to learn from. By we're pricing it based on an estimator thinking we're going to do it one way, and then a very smart project management team finding a more efficient way to do it. But on some cases, the rates are just high from the estimator from day one. And I think it's worth the time at an end of a big job to do that forensic investigation. At the end of every job of mine, I have my budget. I price basically man hours. I look at the man hours at the end of every job, and we assess it. And so far, so good. Chris does a lot of my estimating, actually, and it's good. But if I was suddenly to make 100% more than I thought I was going to make, I want to know why. What did we do differently? Did the team productivity go up, or did we do less drawings than we thought? Or what is the reason? You have to understand whether you're losing money or making money. You need to know why, in my opinion, anyway.
I'm right there with you, and that will lead us right into Division 3, which you touched on a little bit, but to me, this is one of the most exciting things, a virtual studio. Let's dive in on that.
Yeah, BIM is an exciting. It's a bit complicated because you really need the owner and the architects, everybody to buy in from day one. And if we're going to use a shared 360 platform, and if you're going to do it properly, but what I'm seeing with quite a few companies that come to us, they are not maintaining their models regularly. The model should be updated every day on the spot, but either they don't have the resources or they just don't see the necessity. So you have your live model, but it's out of date. So then it's useless. What's the point? So we're doing a lot where we've started doing work for different interior design firms, actually, and a couple of architects, is updating the models for them. But I think it's definitely a growing thing, as is virtual reality in there. I mean, the designers now, where you can put on a set of goggles, walk through the building, like it's a game. You can walk through the building and see everything, and that's going to become more and more. The technology for BIM's already a bit ancient. It's going to grow, and it's going to be AI driven, a lot of it as well. I think we're just touching a huge expansion into new technologies, personally.
Yeah, right. So now you're on the leading edge, right?
Yeah, we're trying to be. I mean, I'm actually signing up with the University of Arizona for a 9-month certification course, which basically is a BIM for managers, basically, and also it touches on SketchUp and a few other things that are all relevant to my business. So I believe, and there's a small part of it goes to AI. So you've got to keep yourself. I mean, I'm not 21 anymore, but I believe in keeping myself educated. I mean, I don't see I'll ever stop doing continual education. I mean, part of my professional associations, I have to have so many continual professional points every year anyway to keep my affiliation. So, but I enjoy it, and it keeps your mind sharp. You go online with a bunch of younger people and some older guys like me, and guys like me, we've got add value to add, and a lot of young people listening to the way they're thinking. They've got a whole different way of thinking than me, and just listening and trying to pick out from it what I think we can use. So I'll be starting that course soon. I hope after the summer. I'm just waiting to see if I'm going on a big family trip, but after that I'll start the course. So yeah, and then Revit is a great software. I am surprised that a lot of AutoCAD guys don't use Revit, but it's quite user friendly, and so I'm encouraging my own guys. Look, if we get downtime or if we're idle, I will put them in an in-house training for Revit with my virtual design manager. So we're coming up with an in-house training for Revit, but in simple sections. So if a guy had no work for 2 days, which can happen easily because it doesn't always flow from job to job, rather than sending the guy home for 2 days and saying, "Oh, just sit at home," say, "No, do this training, And then over the period of the year, he'll maybe have done 16 hours or however many hours it is in the year, depends if it's a very busy year or not. And then we have another guy who's got added skills to add for me, that when I need more Revit people, I'm using people that I know in-house that are professionals, and they're just developing the software skill. And as I say, if you can use AutoCAD, AutoCAD's a lot harder to manage than Revit, that's for sure.
Okay, excellent. And now, onto Division 4, which for me is one of the more exciting ones to talk about just because it's such a hot topic. I'm of the belief that with the business process outsourcing that you provide, it enables specialists to really focus on their talent and work less on the mundane tasks. And I mean, that's just how I see things. You're not taking any jobs away. You're actually maximizing the talent that people have.
Exactly. That's how I see it. We had a company actually in the Philippines dedicated to all industries, and then I decided, you know what, because we're busy. At that time we had 100 people working. I said, 100 people. I need to be focusing on it. So we decided to, and we were getting involved into the healthcare industry, medical billing, and things that are outside my personal expertise. So I'm relying totally on a manager. So I was uncomfortable with that. So I decided to bring the BPO back into ADDMORE Services as a division and only focus on the architectural, construction, engineering industries. So what we offer now is if you need an architect, engineer, quantity surveyor, planner, estimator, virtual assistant, cost control, all of those professions that you would find in a construction industry, we can give you that person for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. And it's like, we call it like a staff leasing. So you contact me, you explain the type of architect you want somebody who can, because rather than employ me on a lump sum, sometimes a lot of my work is you give me the drawings, I give you the price, you accept it, and I do the work and I get paid per the agreement. But there's a lot of people where it's not as straightforward as that, and they really just want to keep control. So they want 4 architects who are going to work under their direction, doing what they say, and they may move them around from project to project, which I couldn't do on a lump sum price. I have to do project specific, task specific, where if you're paying for the person per month, if you want him on that job, 5 different jobs every day of the week, if that's how you feel best use of him, that's up to you. So actually, I would say quite a large part of the work that we do by providing estimators, quantity surveyors, and even now some drafters are being staff leased from us, where they say, okay, we want these guys for 3 months or 6 months. So it's going better now that we're focused on the construction industry. And it's definitely a bonus. Like if you're a big company and or even you're a developing company and you've got a new big project, and if you've got to hire new people, you have to have sustainability of work for those people. Like if I'm in America and I'm hiring a guy, I'm not looking to hire a guy for 3 months. You got to hire the guy either contract, project basis, or you've got to hire him as an employee for, on a contract term or whatever. Where with us, if you're a company and you've employed a bunch of architects, and it's 5 months has passed and you've got no more work for them, you got to let them go. Then you got to deal with all the HR issues, and it's not letting people go is always going to cost you money. And you know what it's like working in corporate America. And then you've got all the hardware that you bought for those people. You've got desks, you've got computers, you've got software, all now sitting idle that you're not using. All that investment is just sitting and not being capitalized. So we're using the benefit of staff leasing is scalability. You can take a service from me, say, I want these guys, I want them for 3 months, 2 months. And at the end of 2 months, I fulfill my contract. I take the people away and put them on another job, and you've done what you need to do. and you don't have idle equipment, you don't have any HR issues, no drama. You know your costs exactly going into the project, so your budget, you know what budget you've got for the job, you know what you're paying us, you know exactly where and how long you're going to use us, and if you stay to that and you use us for the time that you've requested, then your budget control is more efficient, I believe. And also, I think from outsourced companies where we always have to be proving ourselves all the time, because there's always a bit of negativity towards people. Oh, I don't want to outsource. I lose my confidentiality. They don't work. I can't see what they're doing. I don't know how hard they're working. So we have to experience. So we have to do quite a bit of, we tend to go a bit over the top to make sure that people can see the benefit. So I think you get more productivity, because we're not standing around the water cooler in the office or the coffee or going having a smoker outside every 10 minutes. Our guys are really driven on a hard work basis, and they have clear deliverables to me internally. When we give them jobs, they have targets. So, if you spend all day smoking, you don't deliver your target, you're not going to stay very long in ADDMORE Services. As long as you give me good work in the time frame I've asked, how many hours you need to do that, it's up to your skill level. I'm not going to say start work at 9 in the morning and finish at 5. If you can do it in 6 hours a day, or you want to do 6 hours a day, then you want to really blitz it for like a 12-hour day one day, you manage your day, but you must give me good quality and give it to me on time.
Wonderful. I mean, yeah, I think you covered it. That's a lot of the concerns that people have, you've addressed. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I think some clarity is always good for the audience.
Now, on the term of other services, if people go to our website, there's, after the divisions, it says more services, and we do things like FF&E, because we done so many hotels in my career. I have a great database of furniture suppliers and lighting suppliers, carpet suppliers. So we can do FF&E for companies or support FF&E companies. We can do project management. Now, something we're going to get into probably more is some onshore project management here in the States, but that's something further down the track at the moment. And we also do marine consultancy, because we've done so many super yachts. If somebody wants us to go in and review the interior outfitters' bids and scope, we can do that. And I still am very connected into that super yacht industry. There is other industry. There is also offshore inspections. I have 3 guys that work for me now for 20 years. Well, they work for companies with me overseas, and then I employed them when I went back to the Philippines, who live in China. 2 are Chinese, 1 is English. He's an older guy, but he's married to a Chinese lady, and he's retired in China. And they are my quality control team in China. And they do quality control on furniture, quality control on natural stone or tiling. And because they were doing that for so many years with me, they know the way I work. We have a system of working. And I find those 3 guys so far have been sufficient for what the requirements we've been requested. But I have access through my guys there. If I needed to employ, at one time I had 10 inspectors, because I just had a lot of work on. In China's so big, we had some inspectors in Shenzhen and some in Foshan and some in Shanghai. We had to have different teams, so we employed quite a few people. But the 3 guys I've got, although it's not in the divisions, it is a service that you can see on our website, and it's people who know me really, who I'm providing that service for, and they keep them fully busy, basically, between the furniture companies and the stone companies. So, and we're just about now, an exciting new thing. We're just launching food and beverage hospitality design, where I partnered with what we're calling the Magnificent 7, who are 7 very well-known food and beverage consultants in the United States, all individual businesses in their own right, very successful. One guy is a specialist bar with integrated solutions. Another guy does the full lead design on projects. Another guy's for restaurant feasibilities and business operations. So through this consortium, we will be offering, you can use all of these specialists, some of them, It's no one else is offering that. We can offer such experience, and they're nationwide. We've got one guy's in New York, a couple of guys in Washington. There's another guy in Idaho. I'm in Vegas. So those 7 guys, and all these guys are 40-year veterans of the industry. So they can take let's say you've got a buffet in a hotel, and since pandemic, quite a lot of them are being converted to food halls. We can look at your buffet and find the minimal changes to make to your kitchen to reduce costs, but make sure it meets code and is best return on investment. And then we can organize, the power of the lighting, whatever. A second phase of this will be a design build, where we offer the full design build of remodeling kitchens or new kitchens, where we've got another partner who is a very well-known builder and a local architect, and that was something that's going to come separately. But we launched an announcement on LinkedIn yesterday, and there'll be more information being spread on the food and beverage over the forthcoming weeks. It's a very exciting thing, and it's unique what we're offering because of the depth of services and the way we're working. Is you're not paying a markup on a markup. If you need just a bar and the bar solution consultant in our group, we will pass it to him and he will contact the client directly, and you will just pay him. You don't engage ADDMORE, you will engage him. Now, ADDMORE, if he needs millwork drawings or he needs contract documents, of course, we're going to do them for him. But you're not paying a markup on a markup. So you've got basically an a la carte choice. You can pick from these 7 specialists. Well, I need this guy. I'd like the feasibility guy to come and see I've got a space downtown. I'd like to know how, the best way we can lay it out and how I can make my return on my investment. And these guys, they look at it, they consider from the menu what equipment you need to make it work, because to give you the most efficient kitchen layouts. And so you've got the guy who can do that. We've got the guy who can do you a fully integrated solution, the bar with all the beer lines and soft drink lines. And we've also got, as I said, the interior guys who know how to fully coordinate the whole food and beverage industry works. So that's coming along now nicely, I think.
Fantastic. I love that. No markup on the markup. That's rare in this industry, so I love that.
Well, the thing is, we're 7. Well, they're 7. I call them the Magnificent 7. Right again, but those 7 guys are me. We're all guys with 40 years experience. None of us need to make a dollar so desperately that we're trying to do this just to make dollars. The advantage to all of us is that they are advertising me, I am advertising them, and I'm not looking to make a profit. If it's just a bar work that guy can do solely for the client, all I'm doing is introducing a client to a guy. I'm saying, hey, I know this guy. He's a 40-year professional. You can trust this guy. And you make a contract with him. You do your payment terms with him. They're not my subcontractors. We're all independent. We're a consortium of like-minded people trying to help each other, one with the business, and also where I can help. Like in Dubai, there's a lot of restaurants. They're building the new little Vegas in Dubai. All the big like MGM, Bellagio's all going there. So if we can get some of those restaurant fit outs there through my contacts, that will give these guys work. It's good for me, good for them, and it's good for the client because they only pay for which of the team they really need. Like ADDMORE, really, I'm just a coordinator, facilitator of these guys. I will be more, so interest for me is they all work with designers and builders every day. And of course, they're mentioning my name every day, and I'm mentioning their name every day. When I'm dealing with an architect or developer, say, who's doing the kitchen? Oh, why don't you contact Lou? Why don't you contact Rick? It's just, sometimes it's just good to help each other a little bit. That's why it's not a JV, it's not a company, it's just a consortium of like-minded guys that by adding all that years of experience together, you can, if it's a really big project, we've got the manpower, the muscle to take it on. We've got our own structural engineer. If you've got if it's a remodel and you've got to call the floor, he's a civil engineer and a structural engineer. He's got a company in the East Coast and West Coast. These are not one-man bands. They've got their own teams of like maybe 7, 10, 15 people. So between us, we can provide a lot of muscle and a lot of benefit to the independent operator who is maybe a good chef or good restaurant owner, but he doesn't know about construction and maybe not always the best. Even top chefs do not lay out the kitchens to the most efficient way. They lay out, a lot of people that, well, I did it like that in my last restaurant, I want it like that in this one. But that doesn't mean with that type of, if you're doing a Mexican kitchen compared to a Japanese kitchen, it's completely different layouts. So, and a lot of restaurants now as well have multiple spaces. So let's say you've got your eating area, you've got your drinking area. They might have a music band area, or they've got a speakeasy element to it. And how you can change the table around from the day to the night, and then you've got the different type of venues to use. It makes the best return on investment per seat. And that's what all of the Magnificent Seven guys are about. They're all successful businessmen because they're passionate about the work, they're knowledgeable about the work, and they give good advice at I think for America, very good prices. None of them are greedy. They're all very reasonably priced.
Fantastic. I think that's a really exciting launch. Is there anything else that you guys had going on at ADDMORE that's on the horizon?
I want to focus on obviously my main thing is not to get too distracted from the primary services of the drafting and the quantity surveying. And this food and beverage now, I'll be spending a little bit of time on that. But one of the things I would like to take the opportunity as we end this meeting, I would like to bring up for anybody who's starting a new business in construction particularly, or who is already running a business, have you trademarked your name or your logo? Because what has happened to us in the last week, we found out that a company in India has our exact name and logo trademarked already in India. And they're going to try and trademark it here. So they're trying to market themselves off the benefit of all them. We do a lot of marketing and advertising from LinkedIn to magazines to different shows, venues, articles, and they're trying to take advantage of that. And the scary thing there is if somebody does employ ADDMORE Services who doesn't know me, and they employ them and they do a bad job, that's going to reflect on my company. So I did put an announcement in LinkedIn, but it costs about, you can get it cheaper, but I think about $750 to get the trademark down of your name. If you feel like the logo is also important, you can get your logo, but the logos take longer and can be more challenging because, to have a unique logo in this world, there's a lot of similar logos. It can be a lot longer to get that approved. But if you've got your name, like for me, ADDMORE Services, I'm now getting that trademarked. So that I don't, because unfortunately, when you look into the law, even though I'm registered as an LLC and I was approved by Clark County that nobody else had that name, if they have the trademark, they can cause you a lot of difficulty when you're trading and sue you. And you can't just think, well, no, I'm okay. I got an LLC. I started trading this company before they started that. It's the person who's got the trademark is unfortunately going to wield some power here. So it's something like, it's the same as a copyright. If you've got an invention, if you don't copyright it, somebody else is going to take advantage of your hard work and they will make the money. I never really thought that the trademark was so important, but now there's a company called Trade Orbit Makers who had been contacting me. They're an intellectual property lawyers, and they were really putting pressure on me about the trademark, so that I was so uncomfortable. Now, they are a legitimate company, and they do that work, but they put me under a lot of pressure. So I went to my own lawyers in Las Vegas, and I am actually getting the trademark done by people who I know, and I've got a fixed price with them. But I did take note that even though this company are renowned for this pressure tactic of getting business, a lot of what they were saying was correct. So I'm taking care of that, and I would highly recommend if you've got a company name that is important to you and your marketing of your business, that you spend the $750 and get it trademarked.
Yeah, that's a huge share, and I do want to thank you on behalf of everybody watching this, because it's one of the things that is easily overlooked. But the more marketing you do, the more of the market share you capture, the more these people are going to pop up.
Well, I can also tell you, I've written a lot of articles and blogs. Now, some of them, everybody uses ChatGPT to some extent, but generally when I write my own blogs, I tend to write them myself rather than use the ChatGPT, because I want it to be personal from myself. I might do a ChatGPT blog to get some information and incorporate it, but that's just like researching from a book. It's no different. But it's my blog. I've seen blogs from other new companies who are popping up all the time now. There's a lot of new companies popping up offering out offshore work in the Philippines as well. Especially in India, there's a lot. I mean, I get approached every day by half a dozen companies from India offering me work, and so I don't outsource. That's my business. But I've seen blogs that I wrote virtually word for word on other people's LinkedIn or website. Because obviously we research our competitors, or we see a new company come up, we want to see what they're doing. And it's like, as you say, the more you put it out there, the more people plagiarize it and use your information. We started a whole series of stuff about BIM, and then next thing, lo and behold, one of our competitors, exactly, now he's just smart enough to do it a bit different, but you can see he took the idea that, what they're doing is a good idea, and they'll do it. You'll see we're doing these podcasts with you now. I have no doubt there'll be some offshore outsourcing company start doing. I mean, I know one company that does it already on YouTube, but they will start popping up on LinkedIn. They lack imagination, and they seek inspiration from others who put it out there. Now, for ADDMORE, we like to be up to date, leading, cutting edge, and so we tend to be up at the front there, and then obviously people can follow on the back of that and take it apart. So some of the LinkedIn posts I do now, I've simplified, because when I give a lot of technical, I like to give. It's not always about hard selling. It's about providing information to your colleagues, to your people in the industry, and getting feedback. It's inspiring conversation. Well, here's BIM, and this is some aspect of BIM, and then let's get the feedback from people. Well, what are their experiences? How is it going with them? But unfortunately, the more detailed and technical you put out there, the more it gets ripped off. So we try to keep it relatively more simple. If you notice our blogs on LinkedIn lately, they've been less technical. But saying that, we will still continue to put some positive things out there, because it's good to share. And I like to, like when we're talking about outsourcing, I'm interested to know, like, if you're going to outsource solely just because you're going to get the lowest rate, cheapest outsource company you can get, which is a very foolish path to go down, because there's people out there offering ridiculously low rates from India and even the Philippines, and the staff that they must be getting cannot be of any caliber. I said in my last podcast with you, my guys are 15 years minimum post-graduation and have worked internationally, either in Dubai, Singapore, Hong Kong. Many of them have got 20 years plus. You can't compare that to a guy who's just 2 years out of university, never been on a building site, never been in a factory, and he's doing detailed. How can he do a detailed cutting list for a factory? He doesn't know one end of a saw from the other. My guys who do the joinery, drawings and cut lists, worked in the factory with me for 15, 20 years. They were daily seeing how things were fabricated, what challenges the factory faced, so they understand when they're drafting, well, that could be hard for the factory to make. It's easy to draw, but why don't we do it this way? And it will be much easier for the factory. And so people who use our millwork skills get a certain amount of experienced engineering benefit, which you will not get from a guy 2 years out of university. They'll probably use them. That's why there's a lot of people unhappy with the outsourced companies they've used, because they've gone for price maybe rather than quality. Now, also, I find here there's a lot of Indian outsourcing companies that have got an office in Canada or an office I've got one here in Vegas. But when I went to the office in Vegas, there's nobody there. It's just an empty office, and all the people are in India. And or it may be that the founder lives in Canada or somewhere in the States, but all the people are in India. So there's a lot of different things that people should check. I mean, coming to a person like me, just by dealing with me, my name is important to me. I don't like to do anything. If I start a job and I give you a price of $30,000 and halfway through it, I've already spent $20,000 and I know I'm going to lose money, I will still finish your job because I gave a price and a commitment. A lot of these other people will just abandon the job before they lose money. We don't do that. I mean, if we have to take a hit, we'll take it. Now, saying that, we don't want to do that, and touch wood, we haven't had that experience yet. But we would finish the job. I mean, we have on several occasions where they've come back to us and asked for revisions of drawings, which are clearly design changes, but with small amounts like $1,000 or $1,500. We haven't gone back to them for a change order because, I'm more interested in the long-term relationship with the client than making a quick $1,500 somewhere. But saying that, if there's a lot of design changes, then yes, they should pay because we have to redraw it. That's fine. But for like $500, $1,000, no, forget it, for us anyway. So I think be very careful who you select for outsourcing. We provide samples of our work. We give good prices, and the only problem I do face, I sign non-disclosure agreements for every job. Most people don't want other people to know that they're outsourcing. So if you're an architectural practice, they don't want their clients to know that they don't have enough people to manage the job. And so obviously, and I have to respect all these NDAs are quite, legally binding. So it makes it difficult sometimes to give live project or case studies. So we have created quite a few samples of projects, and there are some that we can share, but that is unfortunately a limitation, and we respect confidentiality a lot, especially like if we're doing estimating for somebody. Obviously it's not something you need to worry about that we're going to use any data we've used from your company when we're pricing for another company. And in generally, we never do estimating for more than one company in one state because the potential conflict. But we haven't had any problems so far with that. And yeah, confidentiality is important. And I think you need to be sure that your partner who you're dealing with. With me, I'm here in Vegas. Any American client can phone me anytime in the day, the evening, Saturday. I'm available. They can contact me. Philippines starts at 4:00 in the Pacific time, standard time. Is 8:00 in the morning in the Philippines. My people are available to start, doing any other work that's required. It works, and it works well. And the clients that are using it have been totally convinced. So we just need people to, as we say, they've got to act. Action changes things, as they say.
Oh, like that. And I have your website here, ADDMORE Services.com, to make sure that people are going to the right place.
That is the registered website. The only two registered emails online out there is C Addley at ADDMORE Services and outsource at ADDMORE Services. Any other email that you're seeing out there on any marketing or sales platform, it's not us.
Fantastic. Well, Colin, it's been a pleasure sharing the stage with you again. It's always a good time with you. I feel like I learned so much.
Oh, thanks, Lance. Well, you always make me feel very relaxed and comfortable. It's like we're just having a chat, but you're helping me get my message out there for my company. As I did say, it is one of the challenges I face is that we're not an architect, we're not a quantity surveying company, we're not an engineer, we're multifaceted. So when sometimes people say, well, what is ADDMORE? So that's why we have the 4 divisions, try to make it clearer for people. We've got an infographic which we can share, which clearly shows each division, and it makes things a bit more simple about what we do and so forth.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. Colin, I'll see you soon, my friend.
Thanks, buddy. Been a pleasure. Okay, all the best.